Do you love movies? So do I. What's up, y'all? It's KB, and I love movies, inviting you to listen to The Conversation, a film podcast where passion meets perspective and opinion. From the old school to the new, I invite a guest on to discuss the movies that thrill us, challenge us, break our hearts, or even blow our minds. There's always new episodes dropping wherever you get your podcasts. So join the conversation. We don't just watch movies. We love talking about them too. The Conversation with KB Loves Movies, a part of Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Hey, this is Jason Kleberg from the Force 5 podcast, a show that forces a guest to come up with a movie-themed top 5 list topic, and then we reveal our picks on air. Top 5 heist films, top 5 tearjerkers, top 5 movie dogs. Every show you'll be asking yourself, what would be on my list? Guests include directors, screenwriters, actors, podcasters, musicians, authors, and even a professional wrestler. Subscribe to the Force 5 podcast, and you won't just be a listener, you'll be a list nerd. The Force 5 podcast, available wherever you're listening now.
A naked American man stole my balloons.
What?
Welcome to Wake Up Heavy, the world's greatest horror movie podcast.
My youngest is 3, and he just started preschool this year, and he's just doing half days. But that 3-4 hours in the morning, like last week, he started 2 weeks ago, and so like for the past 2 weeks, I've edited an entire show in one sitting. Whereas before, like, it's taken like a whole week, an hour here, half hour there,
right,
over 4 days. And so these past 2 weeks, I was like, holy shit, this is so nice just to be able to like get ahead, maybe get some research done ahead of time, which then allows you to read or watch whatever you want, which is always nice because at some point you get burned out where you have to watch stuff even though you're enjoying it. It's always nice just to be able to say, you know, I can watch whatever the hell I want tonight.
Welcome to Wake Up Heavy. This is Mark Bigley, your host. Joining me today is the host of the Cult Movies podcast, Anthony King.
Hey, Mark.
How are you doing today, sir?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to talk to you.
Explain a little bit about the concept of your show. I think it's a great idea, and I think my listeners, if they don't already know about it, would like it as well.
So my friend Bill Ackerman has a podcast called Supporting Characters. And so I started listening to that almost from the beginning of his show. That was, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago. And he does these super, super in-depth interviews with writers and like people on the outside of the film industry that support, you know, commentators, writers, whatever. The first time I ever heard the name Danny Perry was from Bill. Brian and Elric, of course, with Pure Cinema, they started up, and I was listening to them from the beginning, and I was like, oh, these guys love Danny Perry. And so I went out and found the first Cult Movies book, and I was like, oh my God, this guy is like right up my alley, because I'm a Midwest guy. Roger Ebert, I've said it a bunch of times, but Roger Ebert was the syndicated movie critic in our little paper, and so I grew up reading Roger Ebert. And Danny's writing really reminds me of Roger Ebert's. It's not like it's so far from highbrow. It's not even funny. It's just, you know, these guys love movies and their tastes really couldn't be more different, which is funny. But I love their writing styles. And so anyways, fell in love with that book, went out and found the rest of Danny's movie books, just kind of started devouring and then discovering all these movies I'd never even heard of. And I thought, why don't I do a podcast dedicated to Danny, one, to bring attention to this phenomenal writer, and who knows, maybe someday we can get reissues of these phenomenal books. Brian Sauer is he's directing a documentary on Danny Perry. And so hopefully someday, like, Danny Perry will be known to everybody worldwide. So I thought it'd be fun to have people on to discuss one of the movies from the books, The idea is to have them pick the movie instead of me forcing a movie upon them, where it might end up like two people who don't like this movie have to talk about it. So I'm getting people who pick movies they love, and then I would like to just to talk about more movies. For like the last 20, 25 minutes of the show, we do pairing recommendations for that movie. That's the simple idea. I just want to talk about as many movies as possible on an episode. I'm reaching out to sort of like how Bill does. Sam Deegan, Heather Drain, these writers and podcasters who I've loved and admired for many, many years. I've always been, for one reason or another, like too nervous to contact or just to say, oh my gosh, I love your stuff. Well, as soon as I start reaching out to these people, they're like, oh my gosh, yeah, of course, Danny Perry. You know, he's a big influence on me. That's been great because the past podcasts that I've done have always been people just come over to my house, like local people, friends, musicians, whatever, in Omaha, and we'll talk about a movie or we'll talk about, you know, whatever the show is about. And starting mid-pandemic, you have to do all online stuff. So I was like, you know, I'm going to start reaching out to these people. And it turns out, you know, everybody that I've, besides one, Mr. Chris Funderburg from the Pink Smoke, loves Danny Perry. So it's been real fun.
I have the first book and the third and the what's the big
Guide for the Film Fanatic.
I'm not really sure why I never got the second one. I think it may have been I wasn't as interested in the movies in that volume. You mentioned supporting characters. It's like almost everybody that comes onto that show mentions the Danny Perry books and the Psychotronic Encyclopedia of Film and a couple of these other ones that, you know, are on my bookshelf as well. For the Brood episode, I read his write-up of that. I'm like, oh, he really didn't care for this.
Yeah.
Went to the Guide for the Film Fanatic and read more. And it's like, okay, he wasn't a fan of Cronenberg's.
Not at all, yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting to see that. And this wasn't, I love every one of the movies that's in these books. That's not kind of the point of the book. It's right. To discuss them and get them out there.
Well, the thing with Danny, like you said, maybe close to half the movies he writes about, he doesn't really care for, but he writes about them with such respect and reverence and understands the work involved in making a picture. He respects that. He respects the artistry and the craftsmanship of movie making. And he treats that, whether he likes the movie or not, he treats that with respect. And that's why I like his writing, because he doesn't just shit on a movie for laughs or whatever, like so many podcasts do. He might not care for the movie, but he's going to give you the background of it. He's going to tell you why it's a cult movie, which is the most interesting thing to me. I mean, these are like in-depth 5,000, 10,000 word essays that are not highbrow. They're just written by a normal dude who knows how to write and knows how to speak to the everyday human being. And that's why I love these books so much, because I've discovered so many hundreds and hundreds of movies because of Danny's books. Just like him, I don't like them all, but especially because of his writing, I grow to respect them in one way or another.
And do you plan on covering all of the movies in the 3 volumes?
There's 200 movies between the 3 books. And so the goal is to do all 200 movies.
Okay.
And so what I do, and you'll find out when I invite you on, but so what I do, I send the guests a list of the movies remaining from, like right now, we're just in the first book. So you'll get a list of the movies remaining in the first book. You're going to pick one of those. What I do, I break it up into 20 episode seasons, because I've discovered keeps the fire lit for me. And, you know, giving yourself 4 or 6 weeks in between these seasons. I'm doing 20 episode chunks, 20 movies at a time. And so by the end of this season, I will have 40 movies done, just under half of the movies from the first book. And then the second book has 50 movies. The third book has 50. But yeah, I'm going in order. We're going to knock out all the movies in the first book first, and then we'll do all the second book, and then we'll do the third book. The running joke now is that by the time we get to the end of the first book, the only movie going to be left that someone's going to be forced to talk about is Bedtime for Bonzo with Ronald Reagan, which is fine. You know, it's a cute movie. It's fine. There's going to be times where it's going to be slim pickings and people are going to be like, oh, I guess I'm going to have to talk about that because that's all that's left.
You never know. There might be somebody out there that's just gunning to talk about that.
I hope to find that person.
Good luck. If I remember correctly, the movie that we're going to be talking about today is in the 3rd volume of the Cult Movies books. So you can use this episode when you get to that if you want.
Perfect. That's it. This is all we have to do.
Which will be in 5 years, so it sounds like.
Yeah.
For the first 23 years of David Kessler's life, he was only human. Then one night he took a walk on the moors.
Beware the moonlets.
Is David behaving strangely?
Are you all right now?
Well, I'll let you know the next full moon.
Tomorrow night's the full moon. You're gonna change.
From the director of Animal House, a different kind of animal, An American Werewolf in London, rated R.
All right, so we're going to talk about John Landis's An American Werewolf in London. I'm glad I didn't say in Paris. I always catch myself doing that. And the funny thing is I've never even seen An American Werewolf in Paris.
Nor have I.
Maybe someday I'll watch it, but it's not anywhere near the top of my watch list. But this was basically my kinder trauma movie. This is the first horror movie that I can remember seeing on TV and just like ruined me for years and years.
This is a movie that I wouldn't pick for my main episodes. I love An American Werewolf in London, but I don't have any recollection of a first time watching it. A lot of these that I do, like Tourist Trap and Phantasm, I have a pretty distinct memory. If not when I first saw it, the experience of watching it, the feelings that it brought. I have no real solid recollection of a first-time watch for An American Werewolf in London, how I felt about it. I know I've always liked it. I watch it a couple of times a year at least. It's interesting to get that other side of like, oh, this destroyed me. So I'm really curious. First off, what traumatized you about seeing it?
I've written about it a lot and I've talked about it a lot. I grew up watching on Friday nights. We would go to my grandma's house, my grandma Jo. We'd always watch 2 movies. The first movie would be sort of a, maybe a PG or a PG-13 movie. And this is mid to late 80s. And then the second movie would probably usually be a rated R movie. The other cool thing is that my grandma had HBO. We never had HBO when I was growing up. That's where I developed my love for like 80s cop movies. I saw Lethal Weapon, Die Hard, No Man's Land, stuff like that for the first time at my grandma's house. Not super appropriate movies for a 5, 6, 7-year-old to be watching. I remember watching the kind of family-friendly-ish stuff. And then a lot of times us kids would fall asleep and then they'd throw on the rated R thing. Or, we'd go back to grandma's bed and her bedroom. If you laid just right, you could look out into the living room. And so I remember even when I was a little older, I watched Unforgiven. So was that 92, I think, or 93. So I would have been 10, 11, 12 years old. But I remember just laying on her bed because we had just watched whatever. And I was like, I'm tired. I'm going to go lay on the bed. I'm intrigued watching Unforgiven when I'm like 10 years old. Mm-hmm. That's kind of what happened. Like I said, she had HBO as well. And I remember one night, so this wouldn't be a Friday night like our normal double feature night. This would have been maybe we were doing a sleepover on Saturday or so, whatever. And I remember flipping through the channels and saw these 2 guys walking, through the fog. All of a sudden, this werewolf attacks. I distinctly remember it had to have been on HBO because the gore, I can't imagine they would have shown that on basic cable channel. Let's see, this is probably 1987. So I would have been 5 years old. Saw that and, completely fucked me up. Pardon my language. I was totally screwed up. Scared the piss out of me. Ran crying to my grandma and my mom. They're probably in the kitchen smoking. And I'm trying to tell them what I just saw. Then the ironic thing is, whether it's the next year, maybe 2 years later, my dad and a bunch of his friends would go to this gymnasium on Saturday nights to play basketball. they would bring the kids, and the kids would, play under the bleachers or on the stage or whatever. And one of these nights, this middle school they were at were having a Halloween party. And I remember us kids were looking out into like the lobby of the middle school. We're in the gymnasium. We're kind of peeking through, seeing what's going on. And this kid wearing a werewolf costume with a knife sticking out of his chest, like popped up and scared the shit out of us. And it triggered, because I feel like at that point, like I said, it was like maybe a year or 2 years later, I had just stopped having these nightmares. It re-triggered that shit. And I started having these werewolf nightmares again. And so for years and years, I had 2 recurring nightmares, something about a werewolf and then a mad scientist thing where I was on a conveyor belt and he'd send me through a machine and then pull my chest open, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Now, where did that come from?
I think that was, what was the show? Let's see. They played Freddy's Nightmares. There was Friday the 13th. And I feel like there was another kind of creepy show they used to play on weekend nights. Do you remember?
It could have been the reboot of Twilight Zone, possibly.
Maybe. It was something, one of those shows had an image like that and stuck with me. American Werewolf in London. So scared of it, I never watched it completely through until maybe 2016.
Really?
2016, I'm in my mid-30s, and I'm like, okay, time to do it. We're going to sit down, and I'm going to watch this fucking movie. So I've seen it, a half a dozen times since then. And that scene on the moors where David and so they're attacked, like it still kind of triggers. I feel that exact same way. And it still scares me. I'm a 40-year-old man and that still scares me. But then I was like, holy shit, this whole movie is a masterpiece. I got over my fears and realized the genius of American Werewolf in London.
Between 5 years old and 2016, did you watch other horror movies?
Yeah, definitely. No, that was definitely my jumping off point. And so on Shockwaves and then Colors of the Dark, like Elric and Becca always talk about, you're kind of chasing that dragon. There's that jumping off point when you're a kid. You saw something you weren't supposed to see, right? It scared the living daylights out of you. A lot of us like that feeling. And that's why so many of us are obsessed with horror movies, right? Because we're still chasing that dragon. We're still chasing that feeling. And every now and then we still get it. And so that was my jumping off point. Not 5 years old, but, maybe 1990, 91, start having sleepovers with my friends. And we go to, the local video store and we're getting the horror movies. We're getting the Friday the 13th. We're getting the Nightmare on Elm Streets.
Any werewolf movies?
I don't think I approached a werewolf movie until I was much older. Because I had this, it's this subconscious thing that was in the back of my mind. And werewolf movies still scare the shit out of me. And I think there's some of the best movies. The Howling, I think Late Phases is really great. There are some really, really terrific werewolf movies that are absolutely terrifying that affect me differently than a slasher or a supernatural thing. It's werewolves and then it's aliens. Super scary stuff to me.
I talked a little bit about my experience with The Howling on that episode, and that was another guest episode where he brought that movie. They've got this commonality where there's humor mixed in with the horror, but they play at it so differently. Werewolf movies they've never been a bugaboo for me, but they've also never really been a big draw for me. I think that's just because creatures were never had that big of an appeal. It was always the weird stuff, which is why I opened my whole show with Phantasm and Tourist Trap and Dead and Buried. And those are the movies that it wasn't so much a scare as the jumping off point. It was like, I don't quite understand what's going on.
Yeah.
But I like that feeling. I like that confusion. It gets my brain going. And that's probably why I don't have that connection with American Werewolf, because it's a pretty straightforward story. If I had seen it at 5 or 7 even, or 8, I wouldn't have gotten all the adult themes of it. So it may have had that pull for me, but I probably didn't see it until I was at least 12, and that may have been a TV viewing. Like you, I didn't have cable until I think I was a senior in high school. I don't think we had anything other than maybe basic channels. We didn't have HBO, but I could follow the story, and it didn't really... There are some confusing things for me, or there were at the time, that was more just me not getting what was going on, as opposed to this is kind of weird or surreal or something.
So I watched it again on that. My friend Rob, for my birthday a couple years ago, got me that beautiful box from Arrow. And so I finally cracked it open and watched it last night. And it looks terrific. What a great restoration. But two, I got so much more out of it this time. The comedy, the love story. It's such a touching love story. As a kid and as someone just kind of surface level, of course, the monster effects, the Rick Baker's, of course, transformation scene is one of the best ever. And so, of course, that's great. But there's so much more to this movie. And the thing I love about John Landis, I feel like I grew up with John Landis movies, Coming to America, he created all these comedies that I grew up watching. So that's telling me, like, he loves to play in his imagination. I just did an episode of my show with Sam Deegan talking about Jean Cocteau's Beauty and the Beast and talking about how Cocteau was obsessed with living in his imagination. I feel like An American Werewolf in London is just that. It's a bunch of kids playing with monster makeup and just having a good time. There's just such joy in that movie that you can't help but feel it. You could just tell everybody was having so much fun making this movie. At least I hope they were. The imagination involved in, like so many other horror movies, especially, but in An American Werewolf in London, the imagination is just so prevalent and it's very infectious and it sucks you in for that fact alone.
It's interesting that that's the first movie that was his idea. I was a John Landis kid as well, and that was because of the comedies. I had an obsession with Animal House and the Blues Brothers because my obsession with the Saturday Night Live crew, the original Not Ready for Primetime Players. Didn't see those movies, but I had the soundtracks. I read the Blues Brothers novelization. So I knew who he was before American Werewolf in London, and I knew him from the comedies. I'm probably a good 10 years older than you, so it's interesting to me that this is his first solo script writing venture, and that it does keep a little bit of that sophomore humor from those previous films, but we've got the horror angle, which he's obviously a horror fan, and I've always balked at the idea of calling this movie a horror comedy, and that's strictly a personal thing because usually they don't click with me very well. Yeah. When I watched it with my daughter, I thought, okay, you know what? No, this is a horror comedy. I really noted the humor more. I mean, even when he's transforming, there's bits of comedy in that. And I'm sorry, I called you Meatloaf Jack.
I didn't mean to call you Meatloaf Jack.
During this painful transformation, the jokes don't come at the expense of the horror or of the scares or of the gravity of what's happening when he goes out and slaughters 6 or 7 people. I was a little bit disappointed at the end because this is one of the handful of movies that I've shown my daughter that she didn't cotton to so well. I could kind of tell at the end she didn't, it's like, we're done with the movie. I'm going to go off and play my Star Stable or whatever game she had on her computer. And I asked her a couple days later, I was like, well, what did you think about American Werewolf? And she's like, it was all right.
I have 2 boys, 3-year-old and an 8-year-old. And slowly, when they were babies, they would sit and watch vile shit with me. Of course, they didn't know what was going on. Slowly, though, we've been introducing for the past 3 years horror movies to Eben, my oldest. So when he was 5, we showed him Night of the Living Dead. Last year we watched Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. We're introducing him to horror movies. Jaws he saw for the first time this summer. So, for instance, kicking off Scary Movie Month this year, in October 1st, we're going to watch The Fog. He's wanted to watch The Fog because he saw pictures of it, and he said, I really want to see this, so we're going to watch The Fog. Eben is about to turn 9, and I feel like American Werewolf, I think it'd be a good movie to show him, but I'm also so trepidatious because of how much it affected me when I was younger. And of course, I was younger than he was when I saw it for the first time, or just that 2 minutes. And I'm worried. Listen, I know Eben can probably take it because he's totally into creatures and he loves watching the effects. And I have shown him the transformation scene, the clip on YouTube, and explaining, okay, look how cool this is. And he was totally into that. But it's that opening attack I'm really worried about showing him. I also think the adult themes, like I said, it's such a touching love story. And there's a sex scene. It's not graphic. Again, whether you agree with my parenting choices or not, he's seen stuff like that. So I think it's such a very moving, like the end, the funniest moment of the entire movie is the smash cut to the credits.
Right.
And ba, 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 blue moon, ba, 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 ba. Because like that is such, she's walking towards him and she's going to break down. And how great is Jenny Agutter? She's the best. And he doesn't allow us to get there. And so I agree. I think Mick Garris says that this is the greatest example of the horror comedy. And I agree with that. I think it melds so well together. The interesting thing when you were talking about, for so long how you never considered it, that I think the comedy is also equal parts comedy, but tragedy. I mean, think about it for a minute. David is talking to his dead friend.
Right.
Yes, it's funny every time Jack comes back, he's decayed a little more. But listen to the words that Griffin Dunne is saying. His delivery, of course, is hysterical because it's Griffin Dunne. He's the best.
David, you're hurting my feelings.
Listen to the words he's saying. He's trapped. That is sad as hell. At the beginning of the transformation scene, it's another example of David Naughton drops that great line, I'm sorry I called you Meatloaf, Jack, but he's sitting there and out of nowhere, he grabs his head and he just screams, Jesus Christ! And he falls. Stellar performance. He's so great in this, especially that moment. 2, it's jolting, which can elicit a giggle from the audience, but it's also sad as hell because, he goes for his head. He's dealing with something mentally. He doesn't understand what's happening. And like I said, the comedy, although it's hysterical, it's also sad as hell.
Yeah, that quick cut, that getting lulled in with the Creedence Clearwater and I see the bad moon rising. I think that's one of the greatest things about the movie is that it's not just fuzz growing on Lon Chaney Jr.'s face. It is this horrible transformation. His body changes completely, and that would have to be painful. So one of the, I think, more brilliant choices of the film is not only to show it like they did, which was important to Landis to do, but to show that, this would be painful if it happened to you. One thing about the Jack appearances, and you're absolutely right, he's hysterical. His delivery is hysterical. It is sad because it's sort of, I thought about it today, it's kind of like Marley's ghost in A Christmas Carol where he's doomed to do this, and he doesn't need to make amends like Marley, but hey, I'm here to tell you, you need to take care of this or you're going to do horrible, horrible things and make more creatures like me. But the main thing that I've gotten lately, since I'm older, is their relationship. You can tell from those meetings more than from the opening of the movie just how much they cared for each other.
Yeah.
And you don't see that kind of male relationship a lot in any movie, but definitely in horror movies. It's like they had a genuine affection for each other beyond the playfulness and you really get that sense when he comes back. He's like, Jack is coming back as David's concerned, loving friend to say, he's selfish a little bit. I want to be done with this roaming the earth thing, but I love you and I don't want you to do these horrible things, and you need to kill yourself so that this doesn't happen to you.
It's those adult themes. I feel like the movie is so heavy with those. I feel like if I showed Eben this movie, he might get a little bored. I mean, I certainly wouldn't call An American Werewolf in London boring at all. For a 9-year-old, maybe, because they do explore love between two friends, love between a man and a woman. Landis, I mean, he's brilliant in just kind of mixing everything together. He sends the doctor on this kind of mystery hunt. You know, he becomes Hercule Poirot, tries to go to this village and solve this mystery. And then you have the friendship between the two guys. You have the romance. And then I'll tell you what, my God, the saddest moment of the movie is when David calls his home in America, and he can't reach his parents, but he talks to his little sister.
Yeah.
And please don't forget what I told you about Mom and Dad, that I love them. And I love Max, and I love you, too. No, I do. No, I'm not being silly, you little creep. You promise? Okay. Will you be a good girl, then? Yeah, I love you.
And I'll tell you what, I think maybe the first time I watched this back in 2016 after it fucked me up, I don't know if I loved David Naughton's performance.
I can understand that.
It hit me so freaking hard when I watched it last night, and how tragic he is in the entire movie, because there's not one point where he calls Jack on his bullshit. He maybe on the surface he's like, oh, I don't believe you, but deep down, like, as soon as Jack appears to him for the first time, David knows, oh shit, something bad is happening here, and he's scared. And David Naughton, the actor, plays that so freaking well. I was blown away on this rewatch.
It's funny because I go back and forth just about every time I watch it, and like, do I like him in this or do I not? And I'm old enough to remember him as the Dr. Pepper boy. I'm a pepper, he's a pepper, she's a pepper, we're a pepper, wouldn't you like to be a pepper too? I always have that thought in my head when I watch the movie, because other than that, I know I've seen him in a few other things over the years, but really, there's certain moments where I'm not buying him. It doesn't distract from the movie or detract from the movie a whole heck of a lot, but you mentioning that phone call scene, and I hadn't quite gotten to that part today when I was trying to squeeze my viewing in before we talked, and that absolutely devastates me now as an older person. And I kind of always got the feel of it, calling home and not being able to get your mom and not being able to explain anything, and having to talk to your little sister who you've probably, been contentious with for years. And I mean, not hateful with, but just, a younger, they're obviously quite younger siblings. Right. Not being able to express what he wants to express other than just saying, tell mom and dad I love them. I can't remember the brother's name. Tell Billy I love him and I love you too. And it's absolutely heart-wrenching. You mentioned the tragedy and the adult themes, and I think that's, for me, kind of what has always separated the horror comedy more than something like, the only thing I can think of as a straight horror comedy is Tucker and Dale versus Evil. And I love that movie, so I go against my own kind of prejudices on occasion anyway. I'm sure you understand what I'm saying. That heaviness that overrides the film, again, keeps me from going, oh, this is just a straight horror comedy. Horror/comedy. It's horror, /comedy, or the horror part's always going to come first. But that scene, and of course the end, as you mentioned, Alex is crying at the end.
Oh.
For a younger kid, it might elicit some chuckles, just like that quick cut to him, grabbing his head.
Yeah.
But when I see it now, I'm like, oh my God, she's absolutely and they've only known each other for 2 days or whatever. But
the performances are so good. We believe that these two are truly in love with each other.
And that connection that's made when she's forcing him to eat, I mean, it's right there. And then you buy it for the rest of the time.
Oh, again, I'll bring Mick Garris up. He always says to make a good horror movie, you have to make a good drama first. Let's remove all of the obvious comedy. Let's remove all of the obvious horror. And here we have a very tragic drama. Like, if you remove all the fun stuff, this is an extremely depressing movie. And again, I think that speaks to the genius of John Landis. He has this extremely depressing story and then layers in some comedy, which mixes well with the tragedy, and then layers in this monster movie, which he just, he grew up as a monster kid reading famous monsters, and his love of monsters comes through so evidently in this movie. It's all layered so well to make it in my eyes, a perfect movie. Like, everything works so perfectly together.
I think one of the reasons why, even though I don't have a distinct memory of it, it's a movie that I return to if I catch it. It's one of those, if I catch it on whatever, TV, cable, whatever it is today. Just like Jaws, just like Close Encounters, like The Shining. If I catch this, I will most likely hop over at whatever point of the story it's in and finish the movie off. To me, is something like Rosemary's Baby is the same thing, and the sign of a top 10 for me. Those movies that I will do that for.
Oh yeah.
And because it's not just ha-ha funny, it's not just an amazing transformation scene. Other than the transformation scene, the other scenes, the See You Next Wednesday, the finale is just amazing.
He did that in Blues Brothers, right? Like, one of the greatest car chases of all time, right? And that huge pileup in Chicago. He does that again in Piccadilly Square. And yeah, I took a few notes. And I was like, more people die in this pileup in Piccadilly Circus than David kills as the wolf.
Oh, yeah. That panic, which rings true. I mean,
yes.
If anything, these days, that's even more apparent. Instead of rushing away, everybody's running towards the closed gate. And it's like, my God, it doesn't seem ridiculous anymore, because that's exactly what people do.
Yeah.
As far as editing and sound, all the crashing and the people going through windows and all the stunt people, and it's absolutely amazing. One of my favorite action scenes in a horror movie that I can think of.
Oh, totally.
I can't think of a better werewolf design in a film. When you get the first glimpse of it in that subway station as to its size, and I always appreciated that this is a huge fucking creature. It's not a man, and it's not a wolf, the size of your German Shepherd. It is gigantic.
That subway scene, that is one of the most perfect 3 seconds of cinema ever. So the guy's he's on the escalator laying down, and he's in a panic, but he's kind of trying to push himself up, sort of in a crab pose. The camera's looking over him down this really tall, steep escalator, and here comes the werewolf just out of the top of the frame through that hallway. And it is terrifying. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I don't know. That is the most perfect 3 seconds of cinema I can think of. It's so good.
That scene for me, along with that finale, you get the glimpses of it prior to that, with the couple going into around the back of the flats and the old guys by the river. But that, for me, that whole section in the subway, again, it's the editing, it's the sound, it's the camera work, a steady cam work through that.
Yeah.
For me, a little personal touch, because I went to school in 1990 in London, I've mentioned this, people are going to be bored with this. They'll listen to my show regularly, but I noted these things from having watched this movie. I don't know if I actually went to that tube station. Many of the stations there are set up exactly the same way. And I remember noting that when I was there, like, ooh, American Werewolf in London.
Yeah.
And our flat that we got to stay in was basically set up exactly like Alex's flat.
Oh, wow.
There was rows and rows and streets lined with buildings like that. The steps up to the front door, and she's the first flat on the right. That's exactly where ours was. And we we had a picture window just like that with a seat in front where he crawls through.
Yeah.
And again, I remember noting that when we got in, like, holy shit, this is the American Werewolf in London flat. And Trafalgar Square we've been to a dozen times when we were there. I had a chance to go see this when I was there and didn't. I think I missed it. That would have been really fun to have had that experience while I was over there.
Oh, yeah. I've never been to London. I've always wanted to go. You know, you always talk about, you know, a good LA movie, a good New York movie. San Francisco is a good movie, good city to shoot in. But this is a great London movie. Like, he hits all the spots. You get the Tower Bridge, you get the Piccadilly Circus, you get you do the Underground. He hits all the spots. It's a gorgeous little tour of London.
And you get the porno shops and the and the phone booths. And never went to a porno place, but did see them in that area. That was the one thing. The See You Next Wednesday stuff was my concern when watching this with my daughter.
Oh, yeah.
She's 14. She'll be 14 at the end of the month. And I asked my wife, I said, there's a fairly mild sex scene in it, and then there's this porno stuff, but it's played for laughs. And she's like, I don't care. So I said, okay, that was my only real concern. It's just the mix of the two. I don't want to come off as a prude, but I have to kind of think. Plus, I'm watching it with her, and that can be a little uncomfortable. Sure. This also might be the reason why she didn't care for it as much as some of the other things we watched. I don't know.
Right.
That scene as well has always been a favorite and is a good mix. Again, probably the biggest mix of comedy and horror in the film, because what's going on that See You Next Wednesday porno is just hysterical. I always laugh at that when the guy breaks in. Neither of us know you. Oh, sorry. And then leaves.
What are you doing here? You promised never to do this kind of thing again.
I never promised you any such thing.
Not you, you Twitter.
I've never seen you before in my life.
Oh, sorry.
Kind of harkens back to...
You will cream in your jeans when you see Catholic high school girls in trouble.
Let me ask you this. So this is the first time I had this thought come into my head when I was watching it. So the end, he causes the big pileup in Piccadilly Circus. He runs down the alley, and he's kind of trapped down there. Do you think he runs down the alley on purpose because he knows he's going to be trapped down there?
I've never really thought about that.
Just because the tragedy of the story jumped out at me so much. I don't know if I was sad or... I mean, for God's sakes, we're in the middle of a pandemic. Yeah. We're all sad. But just the tragedy really jumped out to me about the whole story. And then it ends like that. And I'm like, oh, I wonder... And again, this, for God's sakes, we're podcasters. We like to read way too far into movies. These guys are just going out to make a movie, right? That's what we do. We try to overanalyze this stuff. But I thought that was interesting because it is such a tragic story. Jack, throughout the whole film, has been telling him, you have to kill yourself. You have to die to end the curse so we can go wherever besides roam the earth as corpses.
The scenes prior to that is when he has discovered what has happened overnight, has come to, I think, the conclusion that whether he was a wolf when he did it or just doesn't remember, he did these things. He killed these people. So that whole setup of why he's even in the porno theater is him jumping out of the cab, wanting to get arrested. I don't think it's really a stretch to say that even as the wolf, there is some, I mean, obviously there's still some sense of him because that's what ends up getting him killed. He has sense enough to lunge at Alex so that the police will shoot him.
Shoot him, right, exactly.
Because he knows that he's doomed either way. He can't continue. He knows he has her love, just as he mentions to her earlier about the Lon Chaney Wolfman and how you need someone that you love to kill you.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's a stretch. I just never really thought about that. It's funny, though, because in that scene, and it's one of the little goofs that's always bothered me, and my daughter brought it up immediately. They're like, how did they shoot around her?
Well, yeah, exactly.
I'm like, hey, come on. Don't get technical.
Right, exactly.
Always bugged me. I would agree that there's some level of, this needs to end, and he's already so traumatized that I think that makes perfect sense.
The other thing I really, really love about this movie, I don't want an expanded series of these movies exploring different facets, but I'm so fascinated about the village. What is it? East Proctor? That these people have, it seems like for maybe centuries, have contained this secret that there is a werewolf, and the curse is passed down, of course, in this village. And it's so interesting. And then when the doctor, and Landis does explore it a little bit when the doctor goes to back to the pub, and the guy kind of calls him over in the rain. I'm fascinated, one, because I love just the look of that village is so, I would love to, because it's a real place. I would love to go check that out. Or any of those, villages in England or in the UK. Just these people have held on to this secret, this horrendous secret for however long, is so fascinating to me.
That opening leads you to wonder, what's gone on before, what could possibly continue, which kind of plays against the abrupt ending that you mentioned. Like, okay, this story is done. I would love to see more of that world. Keep it there in the village, and you would have to assume that the bloodline isn't actually dead now.
Yeah, oh my God, yeah, absolutely.
I mentioned earlier not being confused about the movie, but that opening, there was something confusing to me, and I think this has to do more with how I watched the movie as a kid, either on TV or on VHS, on a tube TV that wasn't the right aspect ratio. But I always have it in the back of my head after they get attacked and the villagers shoot the wolf, and David looks over for I don't know how many years. I thought, well, how did they get Jack out of his clothes so fast? It didn't connect to me that, this was the wolf reverting back to his human form, even though the guy looks nothing like Griffin Dunn. Right. But I'm thinking, well, maybe his head was cut off. Maybe they didn't do pan and scan for this. It was just like the edges are just chopped right off, and so all you see was his body or something. I remember going years thinking that was odd. Like all of a sudden his clothes had been ripped off.
Right.
That's really the only very confusing thing for me, and that was just kind of out of sheer stupidity, I guess. This is a completely different person, Mark. I do really appreciate the connection that Alex and David have in the film, and you've noted this a number of times. I have to say, though, that for me, it's one of the most stilted and least hot sex scenes in a movie that I can think of. And I don't know if that's like editing or what. I appreciate their relationship, but for some reason those sex scenes never seemed very hot to me.
It goes back to showing my 9-year-old son. I agree with you. This is like the least hot thing, and it cut together really, really weird. Again, when I was rewatching it here the other night, I was like, yeah, this would be fine for Eben to be watching, because it just seems, I guess stilted is a great word for it. It seems weird, different.
That's how I've always felt about it, and I wasn't sure if it was just me or they have chemistry in the other scenes. It was over-directed or something. I'm not sure what it was. Me being a teen boy watching these, it's like if you get to see boobies in a horror movie, that's a bonus, and it just never seemed all that titillating to me.
As a grown man, it's Jenny Agutter, and
right,
she's a dream woman. I mean, even now, she's just so gorgeous, and she's so funny. She's such a great actor. That is a really strange anomaly. In that scene, they seem to be just zero chemistry, but everything else, like especially in the hospital, like you were talking about before, when she's force feeding him, it's super cute, right? Like she plugs his nose so he has to open his mouth and then jams the food in there, and she's sitting with him, she falls asleep, and their chemistry is so good except for that moment.
If this was like shot early on before they knew each other, or maybe even later, or something, know, if there was something going on with the shooting of it, who knows? But it also makes me think that, as the movie started, and I do this with my daughter all the time when we watch anything, because people pop up that she's familiar with from whatever, either something we've watched before or just shows that she watches now.
Right.
Even as voice actors on some of the cartoons that she watches. And I said, do you know who that is? And she's like, oh yeah, she's from Call the Midwife. And I was like, okay.
Oh, what? I didn't know that.
Yeah, she's the head nun and
holy shit, I didn't realize that. You're kidding me.
And so we've watched that. I think we've watched like all of it. I was like, well, that was pretty good. I'm like, well, what else have we seen her in when she was younger? Because you caught that like immediately.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's Fun City Editions. They put out their second release was I Start Counting.
That's what's sitting in my mailbox right now.
Yeah. Starring Jenny Agutter. And even as a 16-year-old girl, 15 or 16, she is the best. She's so freaking good, man. She's such a great actor.
I remember watching Walkabout for the first time going, wow, this young actress is just amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can't wait to watch I Start Counting. That's one of the ones I'm really looking forward to seeing.
Walkabout, that's in one of Danny's books. I don't know if it's in 2 or 3, or maybe it's in the first one. Might be in the first one. I don't know. But that's one that I haven't seen.
Oh, it's good.
I just looked it up. It's in Cult Movies 3, Walkabout is. American Werewolf is in 3, and then Walkabout is in 3. Any other Jenny Agutter movies in 3? That's really interesting that she's in 2 of them here. Not someone you would expect to be a cult movie star, per se. You don't think of Jenny Agutter right off the top of your head, but she is. Look at her filmography. She's been in so many great cult films.
Prior to Sam Deegan mentioning that on the Brood episode, I have never even heard of this movie before.
Yeah.
And I can say that about, I think they have 6 releases.
Yep.
Fun City, Alphabet City, and Smile are the only 2 that I was in any way familiar. I haven't seen either one of those films. That's the kind of stuff that really fascinates me, is them finding things that are not only underseen and underknown, but are good. I mean, Rancho Deluxe is my favorite watch of this year so far. And
oh, wow.
I just absolutely fell in love with that movie when I watched it a couple months ago. We'll see what I think about the other ones, but I have a feeling just from the look and the people in them and the stories behind them that they're doing good work over there.
Yeah, I just recorded with Jonathan a couple nights ago. Jonathan Hertzberg is the guy that runs Fun City. And so we were just talking about some new releases, and after we got done recording, and I told him the exact same thing you said, like all these movies I'd never heard of until he announces them. And I've loved all of them so far. But for me, Jeremy is like the tops. Like it is something about that movie that just moved me so much. So, but yeah, I'm with it. I mean, he's doing God's work here.
The last thing I wanted to mention is the dream sequences. We talked about how so much of the story, basically the first hour, is the relationships and the tragedy. And I mean, that is what the werewolf story is. It's a tragedy. And so you have that, and you have him building his relationship. You have the meetings with Jack. I think the transformation doesn't happen until almost exactly an hour into the film.
Yep.
But you get those snippets of the horror with the dream sequences, and I love every single one of them, but particularly the one with his family back at home.
The Nazi werewolf?
The Nazi werewolves, and it's absolutely right up there with the finale and the subway scene for me, and just how crazy. Now, that's something I could see as a kid. if you had made it that far into the movie, or if I had seen that when I was that age, it probably would have just absolutely destroyed me, because it is just hyper violent. The sound design in this movie can't be touted enough. Horrible violence, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, there was more of, the kids actually getting shot, and they had to cut that.
Yeah.
But you see the aftermath, and it's not something I really noticed until I was able to see it either on Blu-ray or, streaming in high definition.
Right.
Them laying on the ground just covered in blood, and it's like, oh yeah, this was probably really graphic and really crazy. But those, even just of him, when his face changes into that makeup, or attacking the deer, those little dream sequences sprinkled throughout keep that horror vibe going. You don't forget you're in a horror movie.
Of course, the soundtrack, it's all moon-based, right, songs. During those dream sequences, that's when we get, some of the greatest work from Elmer Bernstein. Scored those scenes. He did, the score for this movie, and it's so good that... Oh man, it's kind of a fast-moving, sweeping, orchestral thing when he's running through the. He's running through the woods naked. The music is so good. I also want to say, so 5 years ago, watched this for the first time, right? Especially the Nazi werewolf scene pops up, and I'm like, "What the fuck is this?" I mean, I've come to appreciate it now. I love it, but at that time I was like, where did this come from?
I don't know if it works better because he's in it, or if it might have worked better. It is kind of like, well, why are we going back in time? I think about it now. It's just part of the movie for me now. But if I think about watching for the first time, I'd be going, he's back home. Okay. That's the other thing I appreciate about, especially older movies. There is a lot of Steadicam work in this, but there's also a lot of just, this is the shot, this is blocked so well, the camera's locked down, it's not that handheld thing that everybody does now, and you have to try to capture every movement of a character, and
right.
Pretty simple, and I think a lot of his early films are like that, even though they can get kinetic in the action. I like blocked shots that have some composition to them.
Oh, absolutely.
And you get a lot of that early in the film. Him and the Coen brothers seem like they took a lot from Kubrick as far as wide lens and getting those establishing shots and going back to wide shots.
There's something to be said about simplicity in your camera work. And Kubrick was the master of that. Of course, older filmmakers. I'm reminded of Gaspar Noé, and especially Irreversible, of course, the infamous tunnel scene where the woman is brutally raped. It's that long shot. It's a one take, and it's just this long shot, one end of the tunnel to the other, and we're seeing this thing unfold, and then Gaspar Noé a lot of times mixes in very, very deep, almost inaudible tones that if you're watching this with, the right speaker setup, especially in the theater, just the sounds are going to make you uncomfortable. Landis also does that, probably not in a lot of his, goofy comedy stuff, but especially in Werewolf, the opening sequence before the boys are attacked, those long, simple shots of getting us, and I think that's the whole point. It's getting you to be comfortable, feel warm and cozy in this movie. And then he does just one little thing that you won't notice, especially upon a first watch. You feel off.
Right.
And you don't know why. But it's all done purposefully.
And the sound, if you want to talk about unnerving, for me, the ultimate example of that is Eraserhead, and where you just can never escape the noises in that movie.
Exactly.
And in a lot of his other films as well. And I've mentioned the sound design in this, and it's not like that, but in those scenes, like the finale and the subway scenes where it's used very effectively. As a moviegoer, when you're first experiencing a movie, you don't necessarily think, oh, that sound is supposed to make me feel like this. You're just feeling
Exactly.
It's like, well, this is interesting because it's obviously designed to elicit this response. It's sort of a pain to reach that point where you're always in your head while you're watching a movie.
Right.
When it's something like Werewolf that I've seen who knows how many times, it can be fun too in its own way to sort of break it down in your head.
Definitely.
Well, anything else?
Fucked me up when I was 5, and then it took 30 years to finally watch it, and I did it, and now it's one of my favorite movies of all time.
I have to say, I was honestly surprised when you said the next time you watched it. That's pretty great. Thank you so much, Anthony, for being on the show. Where should people look for you out in the world?
Cult Movies you can find on Twitter and Instagram, just at Cult Movies Pod. Me, personally, I'm on Twitter and Instagram at AKDonnelly, AKDONELLY. And same thing on Letterboxd too. Weekly shows, we are at, I just put out 32, 33 maybe. So I've got a handful left for this season, and then season 3 will kick up sometime in December, I think, is when I'll start releasing again. But Cult Movies Pod is where you'll find me.
Thanks again for being on the show, and thanks to everyone for listening. You know where to find me, so I won't bore you with all that. Have a great day, and don't forget,
anything can happen when you wake up heavy. Ho, 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 ho.
Bomb, 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 dang, 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 ding, a dong, ding, blue moon, 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 blue moon, dip, 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 moon, 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 blue moon, dip, 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 moon, 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 blue moon, dip, 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 bomb, 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 dang, 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 ding, a dong, ding, blue moon, 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 you saw me standing alone without a dream in my heart. Dang, 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 ding, a dong, ding, blue moon, blue moon. You knew just what I was there for. You heard me saying a prayer for someone I really care for. And then there suddenly appeared before me, the only one my uncle ever owned. I heard somebody whisper, please adore me. And when I looked, the moon had that to gone. Now I'm no longer alone, without a dream in my heart, without a love of my own. Dang, 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 ding, dong, ding, blue moon, blue moon, dip, 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 blue moon, blue moon, dip, 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 blue moon, blue moon, dip, 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 bomb, 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 dang, 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 ding, dong, ding, blue moon, blue moon, dip, 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 blue moon, blue moon, dip, 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 blue moon, blue moon. Dip, 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 bomb, 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 dang, 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 ding, dong, ding, blue moon.